guys? Welcome to the Silver Report. Here we are. It's Sunday, February 12th, 2017. We have gold currently trading at $1,233.90. Silver's trading at $18.03. And let's get into some of the economic news that will be playing a factor. And now we see the U.S. is now beginning to set its sights on North Korea. We see some developments that have taken place. In South Korea, there were reports that the North Korean regime had launched missiles into their waters. And what we also saw is Japan came out and they spoke against this. And the United States now, and they're reporting that this is somehow a threat to the United States to somehow scare the United States. So, of course, we have our president come out and say that the United States stands behind its ally 100%. And so we have this developing situation. It's interesting how the story in just 4 hours went from an issue with South Korea to now the United States being directly implicated. So we have some developing issues over there. But the interesting story that came out, and this is funny, but it's not funny. There's a few key questions. They came out and they have said that the Daily Mail is now fake news. And whether it is or not, it's just interesting, this whole idea of fake news and why it's so dangerous. And we all know when the president was giving his press conference and CNN tried to ask a question, his response, your organization is horrible. It's horrible. And he called them fake news. He refused to take answers from CNN, which is great because some of these organizations are being used as propaganda tools. Now, a key question that news organizations face, particularly during these intense periods like election years, is to what degree journalists should present the facts with some interpretation, given their audience guidance in navigating all the information that comes from them. They just did a Pew survey. A majority of U.S. adults, 59%, reject the idea of adding interpretation, saying that the news media should present the facts alone. A recent Pew Research survey, it found 4 in 10 favor adding some interpretation to the facts. Now, what's interesting about this survey, it was a survey of 4,132 adults on the Center's Nationally Representative American Trends panel. It was conducted September 27th through October 10th before the election. But now, what it said among U.S. adults, 59% said that they should present the facts without interpretation, while there's still 40% that said they should present the facts with some interpretation. Among the registered voters, among Trump supporters, it said that 71% said that the facts should be presented without interpretation. Only 29% said present the facts with some interpretation. Now, among Clinton supporters, this is the interesting number, it says that 50% of them have said that you should present facts without interpretation. The other 50% said that you should present the facts with some interpretation. Although the public overall prefers the news media to present just the facts, they may not even agree on what the facts are. And this is because of this propaganda and this manipulation of the news. 81% of registered voters said that most supporters of Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump not only disagree over plans and policies, they disagree over the basic facts. And it shows the effects of this propaganda ban being removed on the United States citizen during the reign of Barack Hussein Obama, that he had removed a law that had been put in place in the 70s that stopped the United States government from being able to use propaganda on its citizens. And why someone would remove this ban, that means that now the CIA can directly affect public opinion, can directly misrepresent the facts and deliver to the news stations on a whole their script of what they're instructed to say. We see the dangers of this, in particular, since the story began talking about the dangers in North Korea. And it's interesting there. I once saw a documentary, and the people, they have cataracts, a lot of them, and they were only allowed a doctor to come in for one day. And as these people were having their surgery, and they could see for the first time. They walked up to a picture of Kim Jong-il and said, "Thank you, great and powerful leader, for giving me my sight." And so don't underestimate the power of propaganda and controlled media. And this attack on what they deem fake news, and Wikipedia being able to select what fake news is. Google came out the other day and they changed the definition of what the term fascist is. Now, it says in the Webster's what a fascist is, and we all can relate the name to bad political figures, but it changes to someone who was of a conservative viewpoint, that was an isolationist, a nationalist, with extreme right-wing views. Now, what is the issue with changing this, with changing language? I mean, we saw this in the book 1984 by George Orwell, and we saw that the war on words is a very dangerous thing for this country. Now, fake news stories are a problem, but the interpretation of what is fake news really depends on who's been subject to this propaganda and who's to blame. Now, we saw in the same survey that fake news stories cause about basic facts of current affairs, 64% said a great deal of confusion. 24% said some confusion. 11% said not much or no confusion. And this is the interesting part, which I think is the most dangerous. They also asked the question, who's responsible for preventing fake news from spreading? Now, 43% of the general public, or 43% said the general public is responsible for preventing fake news from spreading. They said a great deal, 43%. 31% said some, and 24% said little or no responsibility. Now, 45% of the people who took the survey, they said that the government and politicians are 45% responsible for preventing fake news from spreading. 25% said some, and then 26% said little or no responsibility. Social media sites have said 42%, 29%, and 24%. Now, the big number there is the government and politicians. Because this would, as we already said, people have different interpretations of what the truth is, because most of them are not getting just the facts, but they are being subjected to government propaganda, being subjected to propaganda streams which tell you that certain candidates are leading in the polls by 10 points, which was never the truth. It was never the truth. It was always predicted it would be a landslide, but it depends on where you're getting your statistics from. Now, that the government should have the power to go in and to determine which speech is acceptable and what is not. That social media sites should go in and determine which speech is acceptable and not, leads us down a very dangerous road. We have the freedom of speech in this country, and unfavorable speech, and we could see the effects of this political correctness. We could feel the effects of this political correctness, because you can't even say what you want anymore in this country without being worried of the effect it could have on you, the damage it could have on your program, business, or person. There are substantial partisan differences over whether journalists should include interpretation in the stories. Registered voters who supported Trump for president favored a just the facts approach by more than 2-1, with only 29% saying the news media should add interpretation. Clinton supporters, on the other hand, are evenly split on the issue, with half against interpretation and half favoring it. This may be linked to a perception among Republicans that coverage of their candidate had been too tough. Among Republicans, 46% thought coverage of Trump had been too tough, while only 3 in 10 Democrats thought the same coverage of Clinton, according to the Pew Research Center's mid-September survey. One thing the public does approve of, to discourage clarity in presenting the news, fact-checking. The vast majority of registered voters say that fact-checking is a responsibility. Fully 81% of U.S. adults who prefer fact without interpretation believe fact-checking is a major or minor responsibility of the news media. And of course it is, which is why the news media is vastly losing popularity, the mainstream news media, because they're not being honest with the facts. They are pushing an agenda. They're pushing an agenda that is not based upon the vote of the American people, not based upon the policy of the American people, not based upon the elected officials of the American people, but based upon manipulating the minds of the masses to accomplish their will. And this is a very dangerous thing that we find ourselves in the United States of America. And one thing we must prevent is the suppression of information, of what they deem fake news, and the ability of sites to be able to alter the definition of words, or sites like Wikipedia, where the interpretation of history is dictated by moderators who control that site. And so the way that history is remembered, going back and examining facts, I've seen explanations in there that say it's a conspiracy to believe this about this particular event, when you're trying to just look up historical facts. And so the big danger that we find ourselves in is that we are a population that is falling into suppression of the news, of the real news, and a war on words being used to deem fake news, the real news, as fake news, and so that the fake news seems like real news. In order to give them any kind of credibility, they use words like conspiracy theorist. They use words to try to take away the validity of what the truth is. And the issue we're facing in this country right now is that the truth is just so extreme, it's unbelievable. Because people's perception of the world around them is so abused by these propaganda streams that the truth is painful to realize. The truth about our economy and the state of our country and the state of the world. All right, thank you guys for joining me here on the Silver Report. I thank you so much. If you like the content, be sure to subscribe, like the videos, share the videos, get the word out. I just thank you guys all so much. And hey, if you're new to this channel and you're noticing the comments, Free Silver February, we're doing a contest for everyone who's subscribed to the channel and leaves the comment Free Silver February in 3 different videos. You're entered in for a chance to win the prize that is shown in the video called Free Silver February. It's if you go to the channel, you can go down and find that video. It explains it all. But I thank you guys so much for joining me. The time to prepare is now, because that door is closing. The door on truth is closing. The door on freedom within our internet is closing. The door on freedom of information is closing. And we have gone through such a revolutionary time since the invention of the internet. And there are forces at work that are trying to suppress its power. So share the videos, because the truth doesn't fit in their algorithms. So we have to be the gears in the engine. All right, I thank you guys so much. And as always, stay safe.